Jay Kiel wants your vote for judge. The June 7th elections are coming up, and I'm going to interview him so you can find out who you want to vote for. I'm Tim Thompson. This is Our Watch. Our Watch. I am Tim Thompson, your host today, and I'm glad that you're tuned in because we got an important guest with us this afternoon. We got Jay Kiel. Jay Kiel, I'm glad to have you here today. You are a candidate for judge right here in Riverside County. And so happy to have you here.
Oh, I'm glad to be here, and thank you for this opportunity to talk to you and answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, you know, it's an important thing, I think, right now when we look at what's going on in our nation. We've got voters who they're getting educated. They want to know who they're voting for, and I think it takes a lot of courage for you to come out and to go on the record and say this is what I believe, and if you elect me in, this is what I'm going to do, and we appreciate that. So thank you.
No, absolutely, and I think the voter needs to be educated, especially in today's world where we have so much social media that you can hear things that may not are true. So if I can get out there and really put out what I'm about and what I stand for, I just appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, and you know, when we look at the people that we vote for, so many people, and this drives me nuts as a pastor, but so many people are like, wait till the presidential election. We gotta really make sure we get the right president in there, and no doubt we've got to. But I think judges are so important, and oftentimes that's like the last one. For some reason, it's the last one that people care to educate themselves on, and quite frankly, even if they do care to educate themselves on it, there's so little information out there. It's hard to find out who the right judge is to vote for, and usually it's because they don't come out and do things like this.
Absolutely, and I think this year when it's basically myself and 3 other deputy district attorneys that are running in this race, and we decided we're coming at it at a different approach, and we're going after everything you're talking about. We want to educate the voters on the issues, what we are about, and what we stand for. Before, like you said, the judges was the last on the list, but it's one of the most important positions. So we're taking this opportunity and we're getting in front of as many people as we can, and just so they can hear from us, they can put a face to the name, and just learn about what we are.
Good. No, we're grateful for that. Currently, tell me where you work. Currently, you work obviously for the district attorney, Mike Hestron, which our audience knows, but what do you do there? What's your history?
Absolutely. I've been a deputy district attorney for 15 years. I came in, gone through several DAs. Now I've been working since Mike's been elected, which has been a true blessing. I did most of my career for about 10 years. I prosecuted the cartels. I went after them, not only on the state level under Mike, he also saw a need federally. So I became a special assistant United States attorney, went over and prosecuted cartels on the federal level. And then recently, in the past couple of years, I've been more focused now on doing gangs and homicides.
Awesome. So it's a need for sure.
Absolutely.
But I feel blessed to be right here in Riverside County. When you compare Riverside County to some of the other counties, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the interview. It really, truly is a great place to be and a great place to raise a family, and we want to keep it that way.
Absolutely. It's the Texas of California.
Texas of California,
yes.
Absolutely. So let me ask you, are you a man of faith?
I am.
You are. So can you elaborate a little bit on your faith and maybe where you go to church?
Absolutely. I was born and raised Catholic. So was my wife. She was born and raised Catholic, and we were married in the Catholic Church, but we both found ourselves longing for more. We just didn't feel that we were getting what we wanted out of the church through the Catholic Church. So we found ourselves shifting more to Christianity. And we started going to Inland Hills Church in Chino Hills. And we went there for several years. However, that church had some changes. It was a great church. However, they went through a lot that wasn't their fault. They had some issues that, made it go a different direction. And after that, my wife and I now are back into the search. We've been attending the Bridge Church currently, and that's kind of where we are right now.
Pastor Gary's a good guy.
Yes, absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So your judicial philosophy, what would you say that is?
My judicial philosophy is to be fair. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I always pride myself on my character, my work ethic, and my integrity. And my judicial philosophy, I want to take all of that I've developed over 15 years of being a prosecutor and bring it over to the bench. And be fair, be impartial. You're no longer an advocate at that point in time. You are now the one that you're the listener. and you have to listen, and you have to have that open ear to these individuals as they're going through a very, very tough time in their life. And at that point in time, you can't be one side or the other. And I want to bring everything that I've learned being a prosecutor to the bench, all that experience. I mean, that's what it's about. That's where you get wisdom. You get wisdom through experience and life experience, and that's what I want to bring to the bench.
So, yeah, you gain wisdom through life experience. You've been working. You're an attorney by trade. You work for law enforcement. You work for our district attorney. How has that experience prepared you to be the judge that you want to be?
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer in the Constitution. That's the root of my beliefs.
You are speaking the language of our audience right now.
I am a originalist that I believe in the way it's written and by the intent of our forefathers. And when I was prosecuting the cartels, their main purpose or their main objective was to get the evidence suppressed. I mean, if I have a car full of 25 kilos of cocaine, their focus is to get that thrown out of court from some violation of the Constitution. So in order for me to get over that, I had to become a student of the Constitution, and that's what I did. I just embedded myself in the Constitution, all the Supreme Court cases that interpreted the Constitution so that I could go and battle these cartels and not get the evidence suppressed. I took all that experience because then I knew that in order for this to be successful, it can't only be just in the courtroom. I then took it to law enforcement, and I've trained law enforcement throughout Southern California on the Fourth Amendment. I've gone as far as Colorado to teach on the Fourth Amendment and the Fifth Amendment and the Sixth Amendment. So I think all this training and all this experience that I've gained as a prosecutor will only help me better interpret the law and follow the law as it's written when I become a judge.
So when you look at the job that many judges do, I mean, it's a hard job. There's no doubt, and you make decisions. These decisions affect the lives of so many, and I think we as a public we look at decisions that are made by judges. We go, okay, well, that was a good decision, or that was a bad decision, and sometimes even what we think is a bad decision was still the right decision. We just don't like it. But as you have been doing your job, you see the decisions that many judges have made. Has there ever been a case where you saw the decision that was made and you just thought, you know what, I wouldn't have made that decision, so I would have done something different? Any situations like that?
Absolutely. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about the Fourth Amendment. I've seen and I've gone through motions where the court has thrown out evidence based on what they believe to be a Fourth Amendment violation. And I was like, that's not what the law says based on your reasoning. And I took it a step further and took a writ on it. And in both times that I'm thinking of, we were successful. Our office was successful in overturning the judge's decision because it wasn't fair. It wasn't following the law and the Constitution as it is written.
Yeah. When you look at that right now, that not following the law and the Constitution as it's written, or you even look at certain leniencies that are coming out right now, how in this kind of environment, when you get elected, I'm hoping you get elected, but when you get elected, what would you do to ensure justice in an environment where, we become increasingly lenient?
You have to follow the law. You have to be willing to stand on your own. You have to be willing to stand up. And you're in that position to protect the people of Riverside County. That's what it comes down to. And not every sentence deserves the hammer by any stretch of the imagination. But you have to look at each case on its own and be willing to stand up for what's right and what is in the best interest of the citizens of Riverside County. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Prop 47, Prop 57, when these things came about, I remember I was in Lowe's one time and I was buying a tool, and they said some guy had just ran out the front door, and I had seen the guy. He had this shopping cart full, and he had all these tools in there, and he had just walked out the door. He was like, I ain't paying for this, and it's under the $950 threshold. And I remember being so upset and frustrated at that, because here I am. I feel like I'm an idiot. I'm paying for this. Mm-hmm. I don't have to pay for it. I could just walk out the front door.
Absolutely.
And the thing is, obviously, God would never honor that or bless that. So I paid for it. Here I am working. I'm making my wage. I'm paying for these things, and I see somebody walk out with a bunch of tools that I would love to put in my arsenal of tools. I love having tools and doing my home projects, but I have over the course of decades now stored up and had to save up and have the things that I have, and to see after Prop 47 and Prop 57 pass. And they were very misleading.
Yes.
After they passed, it's really put a burden on our community, on our state. It's put a burden on law enforcement.
Yes.
And we take a look at these things being done. Here they are. So from your perspective, you get elected as a judge. How can you? What can you do about it? Like from a judicial aspect of Prop 47, 57, even AB 109, what can you do?
You have to do the best you can under the circumstances. You can't be willing just to lay down because of the changes. You have to continue to fight for what's right. And you have to, when the sentence is required, you have to impose it. You can't be afraid to do so. With all these passages, as a prosecutor, we lost our hammer. That's what we used to have. We used to have a hammer. And it didn't mean necessarily that we would swing it, but we had it. So that if we had an individual that had a substance abuse issue, and he went out and committed one of these crimes, we had a hammer over his head that said, hey, listen, we're going to give you an opportunity to make some life changes. And if you want to take advantage of that, you can. Because if you don't, on the other end of this is a hammer. So we're giving you the decision, and we're going to try to push you in the right direction. And we were very successful at getting people through some of these really intense drug treatment programs, mental health courtrooms, whatever it may be. But they took away that hammer. And so now people aren't afraid. They'll go in, and the first thing they're going to steal, like your Lowe's example, is the calculator. They take the calculator and they're walking around the store adding up the merchandise, knowing that, okay, the worst it's going to be is a misdemeanor. That's no hammer. But as a judge, you have to try to find and stick with the law that's written and what we have, and just do the best you can, but not be afraid and just lay down because it's difficult.
Right. And you look at the sentencing that takes place. You talk about the hammer that the judge should have.
Yes.
What's your thought on minimum sentencing?
As I said, you can't look at and say minimum sentence should be applied to all cases. Every case is unique. Every case is different. I think you need to go through a series of mitigating and aggravating factors. And I think that's where you're going to come up with the appropriate sentence. Because you look at any sentence that may be prison eligible, that you can have, you can do a probation sentence. You could do, every sentence has a triad, as we call it. It could be 16 months in prison, 2 years in prison, or 3 years in prison. So based on all the minimum being probation or a misdemeanor, would probably be below that, then a low term in prison, midterm, or upper term, you have to look and balance out all the mitigating and aggravating factors and come up with the appropriate sentence that fits that particular issue and that person at that time.
So sentences given, would you support a system where when a sentence is given, that sentence then would be reported in local newspapers, including the name of the judge and what that decision was?
Absolutely. I think accountability is key. I think that you have to, if you're going to stand up for something, then you have to be willing to back it. And I would have no issue with any sentence that I ever handed down that I couldn't stand up and be like, this is why I did it, and have every reason for it. And I think if you're going to hand out a sentence, you should be able to justify it on every aspect. And I think it really comes down to accountability, and I would strongly encourage it.
So when you look at the accountability, of course we need that. I think I agree with you. I think it should be something that we post out, and if the decision's made, you should be feeling pretty good about the decision that you made.
Yes.
That it was the right one. So why would you be embarrassed by it? We look at the judicial system right now. Many people have said, our judicial system's broken. It needs to be fixed. Two things. Do you agree with that? And whether it's wholly needs to be fixed or not, there's always change that can be made. So do you agree that it's broken and needs to be fixed? And if you could make one major change, what would it be?
I think the major change we need to do right now is we need to bring a little balance back to the bench. I think that's what we're losing, that perspective. We only are seeing one perspective right now, and I don't think that's fair. I think we have is we're seeing a lot of legislation come out of Sacramento that happens to be one-sided. And then when you have a judicial bench that also is that same one-sided, I don't think you're getting perspective from the other side. And I think that's one of the reasons that we're running, is we're trying to bring that balance back to the bench. I've always held my career out as being a silent professional. I've never come in this looking for notoriety, to be famous, none of that. But after a while of seeing what's been going on, at some point in time, we made the decision that we need to step up and we need to see if we can try to bring some balance back to this bench. And if that would be the change right now, it's a start. And I think that's a step in the right direction.
Do you think it's broken, though, our judicial system?
I think there is some change that needs. I think we need judges that are willing to stand up, not be afraid. I think they need to follow the law as it's written. We see so many judges that are legislating from the bench, and we need judges that are willing to stand up and say, this is the law, and I'm going to follow it. And it's funny because before every jury trial, when we're picking a jury, one of the questions we ask the jury, can you follow the law? And I will ask every juror, hey, can you follow the law as instructed by the judge? Because this isn't the time to legislate. If you have an issue with the law and you don't believe in it, that's fine. This isn't the place to do it. And I feel strongly the same way with the bench. That is not the place to legislate.
I appreciate that you say we got to bring balance back. And balance is super important. On that question of balance, for you personally, I do believe you're going to get elected. Once elected, you need to be able to balance out being a judge, being an independent judge, and also being an elected official. How will you find balance? How will you bring balance to that?
I openly accept that challenge, and because I want to be held accountable. I want to be held accountable to the people of Riverside County. That's who I serve. I've served the people of Riverside County for the past 15 years, and I want to continue serving them. But in this capacity, I want to be held accountable. If they do not think that I'm doing a good job and I'm making their community a better place, then absolutely, in 6 years, run somebody against me. That's where it comes, and it always knowing that I'm going to stick to my beliefs, stick to my principles. I'm going to bring everything I've learned through my character, integrity, and work ethic to the bench. And if it's not meeting or cutting legal mustard, as we say, then I'm up for the challenge.
So you serve the people of Riverside County, and I think that's an important perspective to have, is that you're serving the people. And you look at the Riverside County, the people of Riverside County, the people of LA County, for instance. There's a difference. There's definitely a different environment when you look at these two, even though we're so close to one another. Different environments. And you work for the district attorney, Mike Hestron, here in Riverside County. You see what happened with George Gascon as he got put into his position. I watched as he got sworn in. An hour later, he came out with directives that fundamentally changed the way the district attorney's office works. And I don't think any of that's really worked out well for the people of Los Angeles County. So, your question for you is, do you see the difference between LA and Riverside, and how do you think we need to continue forward in our county?
Absolutely. I mean, the people of Riverside County, I don't think sometimes they realize how fortunate they are. They have a sheriff, Chad Bianco, and they have a district attorney, Mike Hestron. These two are unbelievable when it comes to enforcing the law. People may give them a hard time because they're doing their jobs. They enforce the law. Chad Bianco and all his deputies, they go out and they aggressively enforce the law. We have a district attorney that enforces the law as it's written. And you go now to LA where the law enforcement is not getting the respect from the district attorney's office. They're out working hard. They're not getting the respect of the community because it's coming from the district attorney who's refusing to follow and enforce the law. So, as I said, being the part in Texas, in California, we're so fortunate to be in Riverside County, and you can absolutely see the changes. And that is why Riverside County's population is blowing up the money's coming to Riverside County. It's leaving the other counties because of what we have here is so different from Los Angeles. We're so fortunate to have Chad Bianco. We're so fortunate to have Mike Hestrin. And I think if we stick with that path and we continue, we will always be different from Los Angeles, and we do not need to become another LA.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with you 100% on that one. We're almost out of time for this segment. Let me ask you, you're running as a slate. There are four of you running. We interviewed Christy Kirk already. Tell me about the other two, and one final question with that is, why should the citizens of Riverside County vote for all four of you?
Absolutely. It's so great. When we got into this, we all have the same beliefs. We're all four of us are aggressive prosecutors. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, and I'm going to stand up and I'm going to tell you what I am, but I've always been fair. And that's the same I can say about Natalie Lowe, Jason Stone, and Christy Kirk. They're aggressive, hard-charging prosecutors, but they've always been fair. It's not about winning. It's about doing what's right. And we all share that same mentality. And it's like this isn't a partisan race. This isn't about conservative. This isn't about liberal. This is about doing what's right and protecting through our beliefs in law enforcement in Riverside County. We've been so fortunate to run on this slate because we carry each other. And if someone can't make it, the other one stands up. We know everything about that individual. And because we almost can say the exact same thing on the exact same questions that we get, it makes sense. And people should vote for this slate by just looking at our background. We're endorsed by. We are a law enforcement background. I mean, that's who we are. I mean, we are endorsed by every law enforcement community or every agency in Riverside County. Mike Hestrin, Chad Bianco, the Riverside County Deputy District Attorney Association. So we were trying to protect the citizens of Riverside County, and that's why they should vote for us.
All right. Well, you have my vote. I'm grateful for you, and wish you all the best as you continue on in your campaigning, and we'll see what happens, but I'm fairly confident you guys are going to do very well. So thank you for coming on the show today. Really grateful for this opportunity to hear from you, and let us know what we can do.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, I just want to thank you for tuning in. We still have two more of these judge candidates that we're going to be interviewing, so you're not going to want to miss these. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. We'll let you know when this is going to come up, but we want to make sure you are informed. We want to make sure you're educated, and we want to make sure you vote. So thank you so much for being here. God bless you. We'll see you next time on Our Watch with Tim Thompson.